I look back on my life and think about how many times my guts told me one thing, I've decided to choose a different path, ultimately to realize my gut was right.
He was right.
70% of the time, if I had listened to my gut, it would have got me to where I wanted to be faster. Which is also kind of a name of the game in entrepreneurship. It's how quickly can we get to the next stage.
This is the Startup Junkies podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thanks for tuning in from wherever and however you're tuning in with us today. My name's Caleb Talley. I'm a member of the Startup Junkie team, joined by my co-host, Daniel Kuntz. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, because it's Friday afternoon. You're probably going to go home after that.
It's Friday afternoon. World Cup just started, hence the USA shirt.
Yeah, this is a baseball jersey, not a soccer jersey, but it'll work. We are joined by our friend, Dr. Joshua Upshaw today. Josh, how's it going?
Hey, good guys. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you, and we're excited to share with our listeners and viewers more about a company that you've been building for a while now, Hidalgo Technologies.
Absolutely.
So we'll start there. What is Hidalgo?
Hidalgo is a name for a Spanish noblewoman from the 1700s who came into her position of power, not by being born into it, by her generosity, gregariousness, concern, and welfare for her community. And bringing that into the technology space, bringing that into the healthcare space is something that me and my team felt was a valuable endeavor to bring to the world. Hidalgo itself is a platform, technology, software, call it what you will, that helps to reduce the administrative overhead of insurance paperwork approvals so that patients receiving maybe chronic care conditions can start treatment sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, we'll jump into the company a little bit further down the line, but we want to talk about you real quick.
Yeah.
We kind of like to start these episodes. If you had a Marvel origin story, or just give us a little bit about your journey, where'd you start?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started near the U of A campus. So the year was 1990. My mother was working at TCBY. I think you might have heard this story.
Too good to be.
Yeah, isn't TCBY?
Something like that.
I can't believe it's not.
I don't know.
Anyway, we're butchering that.
They're not sponsoring, so we're not.
I wish we had some right now, in fact.
Right.
That would be good. Anyway, so she was eating TCBY, pregnant with me at the time, and that's really where it all began.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back to the beginning. I like it. Before the beginning, even.
Over the course of, a couple of decades, I ended up going back to college to get my graduate degree in cognitive neuroscience, brain science, using EEG electrodes to put on people's heads and measure brain activity and understand, what was causing people to be more or less distracted by stimuli in their environment. It was during the same time that my stepfather had gone into treatment for his cancer condition. He had esophageal cancer. And it was an incredibly painful experience. And basically over the course of 4 years, he starved because the complications in getting the treatments that he needed were just so drawn out and time consuming and frankly energy consuming that adhering to the treatment regimen was almost impossible. So during my graduate program, I realized, hey, I'm taking a bunch of messy data that seemingly makes no sense from the brain signal. I'm running algorithms in order to predict certain clusters of information of that signal to understand what about that signal is giving us valuable information to be able to predict what that person's going to think, what they're going to do, and how they're going to do it. And basically taking that application into the healthcare space, understanding what the messy data between all the workflows, the handoffs between departments, between people, between patients, how that can be used to help predict the outcome of if a patient has a certain diagnosis with a certain medical treatment, with a certain insurance coverage plan, what's the outcome going to look like? How can we get them there more smoothly and with less delay, if that makes any sense? Not necessarily. It has its use case. I think, frankly, I tried to avoid the term AI, right? Because it's a gigantic umbrella of different computer science-based technologies, algorithms that are used to predict outcomes based on inputs of data. AI is a tool that can make that better and faster and can present information in a more human digestible way, right? Where it kind of makes more sense to somebody reading it instead of just ones and zeros, let's say. But of course, it's been on the roadmap because that tool allows us to take these more advanced technologies and put them into more applied settings.
Right.
It's almost akin to, I guess, a company or venture incorporating the internet in the 90s. It's kind of, an AI-powered company is will eventually be as equivalent to saying you have an internet-powered company, just because it's the tool that's going to be embedded and ingrained in just about anything that's using technology.
Absolutely.
So from your description, it kind of feels like having taken your experience and academic background and applied that in terms, which obviously was kind of a neurological scientific perspective, and applied those patterns and frameworks to data and process application. Take those learnings and apply it to a problem in a completely different field, sector, category.
Yeah. For me, I'm a problem solver. That's really, I'm not necessarily a scientist. I apply the scientific method to solve problems, but more than anything, I just want to solve a problem. Whatever tool or method it takes to get there is my goal, and I want to solve the biggest problem that I feel I can do within my lifetime, and that to me is helping patients get the care that they're eligible to receive so that they have less complications and delay. In this current world in which we have every cure to basically any disease, right? It's available, but the challenge is getting access to that treatment. That's where the line is drawn in the sand for a lot of people. Not necessarily because the resources to get there aren't there, but the level of education to understand where to go to find those resources, the steps to actually get there, what other life circumstances are preventing someone from being able to find the resources to access the care. It's a giant web. But anyway, back to the application, right? The academic to the real world applied setting in a slightly different realm. During my academic program, I learned some very specific skill sets and, certain use cases. But I think more than those specific, maybe technological or scientific skills, I gained soft skills in management of a project, I guess. How do we take the necessary people and plug them into place in order to accomplish the goal of the project? I think I can't speak for all graduate programs or really any academic programs, but I think that's the skills that we gain that are more valuable than the specific, purpose of that, whatever program someone's in.
Just the structure and mechanisms for getting something done in general.
Yeah, and being your own boss. A lot of times in those programs, you are responsible for the outcome.
Right.
The quality of that outcome can vary and does vary person to person based on, what they want to do with it. And whatever initiative that we can take to have a high quality outcome is important. And frankly, sometimes you get lucky.
Right.
Research, a lot of times it's a null finding. You spend years studying something and then it's nothing, and that happens. But it's more of the learning the process of how to get there. And sometimes a null finding is equally as valuable as a significant finding.
Yeah.
Because you can cross something off the list at least.
Right. We talk a lot about customer discovery. We're like, go get answers from, potential customers. No is a valuable answer. It's very good to, like you said, cross it off your list. So.
Yeah,
absolutely. I wish more people would tell me no.
Yeah, right.
It helps shape and reframe and, carve off, chisel away at things that, could potentially slow you down, give you a false start, stumble you in some form or fashion in the future. Because the market's ruthlessly efficient, so getting to no's quicker definitely can help kind of clear the path a little bit more.
And I will give a caveat that I do receive enough no's. So if anyone's watching this, yeah, okay, I should tell them no. I'm good.
You don't have to do that.
I get plenty of those as well.
Well, it seems like you kind of figured out, you saw this problem obviously in a very personable sense there. What did you do to validate your problem? Did you go out and did you go talk to people? When was the moment you realized, no, people could use a product like what I'm trying to build?
Yeah. I mean, in all transparency, the problem came to us, the specific prior authorization insurance approval problem. During my time at the University of Arkansas in the new venture development program, Health Tech Arkansas, led by Jeff Stinson and his team there, brought the problem from Highlands Oncology to our classroom to share that knowledge of, hey, this clinical organization has these various challenges that they're facing. Here are a bunch of, college graduate students that are putting their energy towards entrepreneurship, trying to solve problems, may or may not have the technical skills to solve those problems. But it was because of my desire to make a difference in that space, to seemingly right the wrongs I felt that had occurred in my family that I've seen in others, I jumped at the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So in the course of that new venture development program, led by, at the time, Sarah Goforth, David Hinton was there as well, the University Tech Ventures, now I think ran by Phil Schellhammer. The goal was to conduct customer discovery interviews over the course of that program. So talking to those individuals that have the problem, are impacted by the problem, can help to solve the problem, to clarify the various elements that would comprise either successful business plan or business model, or give information, evidence to identify this would not be a feasible, viable path for business to take.
So you had all these conversations. Obviously, the problem kind of brought to you. Then you have all these conversations. So you start building out the product after that, correct? So what was that next step? When did you realize your job was no longer building the product, but growing your company?
Or deploying it, going to market with it, I guess, too.
Yeah, good question. And it's a never-ending kind of back and forth cycle. Technology space, product is always evolving. It sort of has to be in a way. But I think the inflection point of we have enough information to validate a viable business case here for this technology. I mean, it's a matter of data, I think, right? Like having enough people say, yes, we need this. We're willing to go the extra mile in order to have this, above and beyond those who say, I don't need this. That's not going to help. That's not going to solve anything for me. Once that's higher than the alternative, the null hypothesis, then it's a go forward. Yeah. But I will say that without being able to first put in the right people into place to be able to take that business idea forward, it wouldn't be possible. So finding the right technical talent to create the system, the right supportive scientific talent, the right partnerships. And then the second piece is obviously funding in order to get it there. Because you can't take a nothing technology that is supposed to help people in the healthcare space and then have someone pay for it, right? So it has to be built to a certain extent first,
right?
Prove it has some value, right? For the goal.
Idea.
Yeah. Well, in healthcare, it's notoriously difficult because it has to be secure and protect patient information and protect the end users. And so that combination of a team and resources to get the technology to market was critical for us.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your team.
Yeah, so it's myself as the CEO. I lead the business development, R&D space, that more academic leaning research side of things. My technical lead has 25 years experience in the enterprise technology space. And so he's taking the tool, making it scalable for enterprise level work, protecting information. I have a team of, I think, 5 part-time employees underneath us.
Yeah.
A couple technical, other marketing, business operations, customer discovery, outreach, things like that.
How'd you go about building that team of, your technical lead, but also kind of those part-time squad? How you went about kind of onboarding them? And I imagine, there's of course a process of identifying folks that are going to see the vision and the mission and buy into that as well, especially for an early stage company. So how'd you go about kind of adding those folks and building that team out?
Yeah, iteration, trial and error. First identifying, hey, here's the goal I want to achieve. These are the current resources I have to achieve it. And these are the other resources I need to be able to achieve it. Identifying those gaps and then finding the person to be able to solve those problems and fill those gaps. So, for me, finding a high quality technical lead was the most critical onboarding process, right? And so that was a wide net with very specific qualifications and criteria that I outcast a recruitment effort campaign. I accidentally boosted my job post on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're really good at getting you to accidentally pay them.
Yeah.
And not be able
So
to
wait a
back
second.
out of it ever. But I'm very grateful that I did, because I got 80 highly qualified applicants for that position. After the course of maybe a month of interviewing, the last person that I spoke with was my current technical lead, Jijo, who is also connected to the ecosystem here and then in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area over there. And we also got along way better. And to your point, I think, Caleb, of the mission vision alignment, his thought process behind wanting to get involved in the company was he wanted to make a difference in that healthcare space. So very much, I think, probably more than skill sets that alignment with the mission, with the vision of what we're trying to do is more important. I think without that, it's very easy to be like, hey, I can't afford to do this. There's better, more profitable uses of my time, in the short term. Because at first it's a lot of grinding until we reach that inflection point, and then it's the next.
Yeah. The Startup Junkies podcast is brought to you in part by Arise. Arise helps Arkansas tech and tech-enabled startups grow with no-cost coaching, capital navigation, and expert connections so founders can scale faster. Learn more at arisearkansas.org. Yeah. It's like, obviously, entrepreneurship and going to market with a company it's a tough journey for anybody, but it makes that sell for, your co-captain to be aligned on the vision and mission of it all easier to kind of sell them on that tough journey if they're bought in.
Yeah, and frankly, easier for me to get up and do it every day.
Yeah, it seems like you guys complement each other really well.
Yeah. We do a really good cop, bad cop. When it comes to our organizational structure, I think that's a good example. For people I oversee, Jijo kind of has to play a hey, what's the point of this particular activity? How is this moving us forward, pushing the KPIs ahead? And then on the technical side, he needs to have good rapport with his team, right? So they want to work with them, and they're working day to day, every day. And for me, I come in and be like, hey, what's the administrative overhead of this particular direction that we're going? Is this getting us, toward our North Star? Are we achieving that because of what you guys are designing or building? So I think it's a good balance, and it's key to have somebody like that, at least one person, to be a check and balance for you, and to say, hey, that strategy maybe could have been handled in a slightly better way, or just to get feedback, validation, like, hey, did I handle that okay? Was that appropriate? Because honestly, I question myself a lot, and I think it's important to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's a unique trait to have, especially as a founder, because a lot of entrepreneurs, you think about the stereotypical entrepreneur, obviously you have to have somewhat of an ego to get going. You have to believe in yourself. You do, and what you're doing is going to work. But a lot of entrepreneurs kind of walk around thinking, I'm right all the time. This is going to work. This is me. But it sounds like you're doing a great job of just accepting that feedback too. It's really cool to see.
It's so critical because that's where so much value can be found. I'll say, with a grain of salt, right? Like, you can't take in every bit of information as, potentially to pivot you away from the directive. But yeah, I met someone, this past weekend who was very sure in their plan, couldn't be talked out of it, would not want to see another direction or strategy. And it's like kind of a lost cause situation,
right?
Yeah. It is important to be able to take that information with a grain of salt and then extract the value specific to the use case or the circumstance, and then move forward even stronger because of it.
Parse through what to register and what not, what can go to the waste bin of the feedback loop.
And it's tough in entrepreneur world because there is a lot of feedback and a lot of opinions and so much variation between them. I can ask the same question to 10 people, get 10 different answers on the best path forward.
Especially for folks that are really just getting into it, kind of going out into untested waters with an idea or a solution to a problem that they've been, kind of enamored with, and they're new to that space, and they're getting feedback from people who, they've been in this ecosystem for X number of years, or they've done this or they've done that. It could be easy to kind of get lost in the mix of that, just because someone's done X for this number of years doesn't necessarily mean that feedback is going to be as applicable or as relevant to what within your industry and background opposed to theirs. So I think it's a very relevant issue.
And how do you sift through all the different feedback and opinions you get? Like, how do you stick on something where it's like, that is valuable feedback, or maybe that's just noise?
Collect the data. It's all varied to an extent, a large extent, frankly. Eventually, though, there will be a trend of what the right path is. And until there is a visible trend, go with the gut. Like, I was talking to my business partner about this the other day, and I'm like, I never thought I would make more decisions with how it felt in my gut than now as an entrepreneur. Because there's a lot of unknowns, lots of risk taking, right? And there's no necessarily clear path, so many different ideas. To lean into what feels right, because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to be able to sleep.
That's what you got to live with. there's got to be a science to that too,
Yeah.
of having that good judgment. And,
That internal compass.
yeah,
You know?
basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there is.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about you guys, but if I look back on my life and think about how many times my guts told me one thing, I've decided to choose a different path, ultimately to realize my gut was right.
Right. It's
I would
right.
say
Yeah.
70%, if I put a number to it. 70% of the time, if I had listened to my gut, it would have got me to where I wanted to be faster,
Yeah.
which is also kind of a name of the game in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily how can we do it the best possible way, no matter what. It's how quickly can we get to the next stage, iterate, and then continue,
Yeah.
and grow that way.
So listen to your gut. So who's your guys' ideal customer? Who are you reaching out to, and how are you getting in contact with them right now?
Yeah. Ideal customers, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, CEOs, revenue cycle managers, practice administrators, directors of innovation, clinical research directors, independent physician practices, primarily in the Midwest, community-based rural practices that struggle with a complex mix of insurance payer providers and coverages for their patient populations that are maybe struggling to maintain the level of administrative overhead necessary to manage that amount of patients with the payer complexity. Yeah, I think that answers
What are you doing
pretty
to
well.
reach them right now?
Oh, to reach out to them. Yeah. A combination of things. Best ways to contact really anyone for anything is some type of warm referral. So those in our network that maybe we've come across through our customer discovery process over the past couple of years, that's best strategy. Another one is LinkedIn. You know, if typically those that would be a decision maker or key stakeholder or potential champion for our idea, a difference maker, will be involved in some sort of social influence or presence in that space. And so that's a key space for us. There may be some other clinics or systems where they're not on that platform. So that's just kind of word of mouth referral process at that point.
Yeah.
And you talked about previously about having built out the product and, getting to that tipping point between building and going to market. How have you funded that? Have taken on capital, bootstrap? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, no capital as of yet. We are funded by the National Science Foundation through their Small Business Innovation Research Grant. We were awarded a phase 1 research
That's awesome. Yeah.
grant in October of last year. And currently we're applying for the phase 2 program, which is due at the end of July. And until that second round of grant funding comes through, we are seeking additional capital investment to help us scale our go-to-market commercialization plans.
Yeah.
What's that been like, the process?
So far, pretty good at the pace I've been going. Over the course, over the past year, I've been fleshing out my materials for my investor due diligence data room. Again, there's so many opinions about what looks best for what to have in there. And so it's constant evolution, iteration. Feedback I'm getting is better than it was a year ago. And so seeing that pendulum move forward is validating, and seeing, investors be like, oh, hey, we want to escalate this up to the next level of communication is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. And this was just on a cold outreach to an investor in my space, because we're seeking angel investors that have kind of knowledge in the health tech, digital health, AI space, or physicians as well want to be involved in that raise.
A little more strategic.
Yeah, more strategic, because it's going to be a long-term relationship. So, yeah.
I think that's something that's important to note too for, founders that are interested in raising, and the importance of, kind of filtering those opportunities based on folks with a knowledge and an understanding of the space, whether that be direct experience or just, knowledge of how long those cycles potentially take. So you're not getting on someone else's treadmill and they're cranking that up, expecting, this 10x exit by this timeline, because they've got to be, obviously aligned with your, your roadmap, of course.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people lose sight of how important that is, because that can change the game for anybody as they're building and growing and all that.
It's critical, man, because you get with somebody maybe isn't aligned with, frankly, your value system. That's good 5-10 years that you're with that individual or group that may or may not be helping you to get to that end goal, and it's more stressful. And the dollars are, it's shiny, right? And it may be circumstantial where, hey, if I don't have some sort of capital stream to help me fund this venture, then I have to call it quits and get a full-time job. So I understand. But I think if the company is in the position to be able to have those conversations in a way to where it actually does make sense for the investor, it's a viable business to be able to invest in, where a return is de-risk enough for it to be worth considering, that then gives the founder or whoever's raising the flexibility to pick and choose a bit more and to have like a co-interview process. It's like, I'm not just trying to prove myself to you, but I'm trying to get information to see if this is going to be a good fit for us.
It's a marriage. I've heard it referred to, but in that case, it's a marriage to someone that if you have a divorce, they've got several attorneys and deep pockets.
It's an ugly divorce.
Yeah, it's ugly.
Yeah.
So what do the next 5 years look like for you?
Next 5 years, I'll be continuing to raise capital, build, scale our venture, bring on more clients, customers, so we can help more patients get treated sooner. The more patients we can get approved on medications that will potentially save their life, that's my goal, my initiative. We'll scale nationally. We may pursue international markets, depending on the economy at that point in time. Over the next 4 years or so, I know Asia has a very large proportion of cancer patients in the world, so we may go that route. But if not, then North America, predominantly where the insurance companies are located.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one of the ways we kind of like to land the plane on these episodes is to invite our guests to hop in their time machine and go back in time. This could go all the way back to TCBY, or it could go, when you're still in school in the New Venture Development Program. Whatever, point in history, in Joshua's history, that you want to go back and give your younger self advice based on all the accumulated knowledge that you have now. What would that advice be?
Oh, man. So I would go back to my undergraduate years when I was studying business management, and I would say to myself, hey, if you take this more seriously now, 5-10 years later, you're going to really appreciate it because you're going to start a company. And running that company is going to take so much time and energy, and you may or may not have nightmares about the company. Or you may wake up in sweats, from time to time. But if you pay attention now, you're going to be well off down the road. So yeah, education is key. Utilizing any opportunities to learn something new, to make a difference for your future self, is absolutely critical for being happy in this lifetime, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be higher education necessarily, but some type of training, continuing to improve, continuing to learn and grow and develop oneself, I think, is most critical for past Josh.
Yeah, that's great advice. So you're saying if there are any students out there listening, they need to lock in. Pay attention, lock in.
Yeah, if it's an option for you, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Or just even outside of, academic settings, to absorb everything that you can.
be a sponge.
Be a sponge.
Well, if any of our listeners want to learn more about you or about your team, where can they go?
Yeah. You can go to Hidalgo Tech, HIDALGATECH.com. That'll be our primary method of contact. You can find me on LinkedIn, Joshua Upshaw, PhD. There might be some periods in there somewhere. Happy to connect with you there. And yeah, I'm sure you can share an email if you'd like. We are applying for our Phase 2 fund, and as a part of that project application, we are looking for additional clinics to come on with us on this journey to expand outwards from oncology cancer care. We're taking a multidisciplinary approach where we're bringing in pathology, radiology, imaging, other types of subspecialties that create a comprehensive care continuum journey for the patient themselves. Love to have that conversation, see if we can't offer some value with some subsidization from that grant funding to help.
Yeah, we'll make sure to we'll link your LinkedIn and your website in the show notes, and let Startup Junkie know however we can help you along the journey. We'd love to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And I would like to shout out Startup Junkie for all of the amazing things that you guys do for this community. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it without you.
That.
We paid him to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes
Roll
a
that
village.
clip on social media.
It really does, though, right?
Yeah,
like
it does.
You need a lot of people to make this work, and the only way to make it work is to have people. So without you, the people don't exist.
Yeah. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and thank you to our audience for following the Startup Junkies podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share with a friend. Subscribe and review because it matters to us and we want to hear from you. If you're interested in learning how to work with us, check out the information below. See you next week.